Hello fellow brothers in faith and arms. As a Christian, it is an act of pious observance to go on pilgrimages to sites of our religious heritage, such as Rome, Jerusalem, the River Jordan. However, the Land of Canaan, the most holy land of all, is in a state of turmoil and political tension. Is it not righteous for this land to come back under Catholic occupation so that we may stand against the violent and oppressive heathens as the guardians of all the pious pilgrims under our one true God? So the question now becomes, how do I start a modern crusade? Admittedly, this is not an easy issue to tackle, but without further ado, papal sanction. The first issue that must be considered when starting a modern crusade is receiving a papal sanction. You can start a crusade on your own, but we don't want to start any crusade. We want to start one of the crusades, the 10th crusade to be precise. To do that, we would need a confirmation of a divine mandate. We need the Pope to basically say, yes, it is the will of God to launch a crusade and retake Jerusalem. We would also need approval from the Pope himself. Essentially, we want his public approval of our crusade and to declare our holy struggle righteous by the grace of God. That's good and all, but suppose you happen to have a tolerant, non-warmongering, peace-loving Pope. What then? Well, although not simple, it is possible to fill all of the cardinal positions with your puppets, one of which would then become the next Pope. At that point, it'd be easy to get papal sanction, and with that, you could finally launch your crusade, which brings us to declaring a crusade. There are several ways of actually launching the crusade. One way, the simplest and most trivial way, is by a formal declaration of war. The Pope, on behalf of Vatican City, would declare a war on the heathens of the Levant to carry out conquests in the region. However, such actions, especially from a prominent figure, probably won't result in kind diplomacy from the international community. Another avenue to this end is by staging an intervention. By staging some kind of humanitarian crisis in the region, it may, through much detail, be possible to convince the UN to intervene. Through an increase in involvement over the course of the intervention, we may be able to make demands of land. Then, we would have a foothold in the region from which we may establish an organized Crusader state. Further conquests could follow from there. However, the current adamance against cooperation within the Security Council is going to make this very hard to pull off. But if it were possible to pull off, this method would probably be the best. If. And finally, we can go about this through the establishment of a militia in the region. The Middle East is known for its political tension in the militias and insurgencies that follow. Many of these militia, like the Hezbollah, the Syrian Democratic Forces, and the Free Syrian Army, are taking part in the current struggle surrounding ISIS. We could establish our Crusader militia headquartered in the Levant and take part in the struggle against ISIS. From there, we can increase our involvement until we start making demands of land. Once ISIS concedes land and an organized Crusader state is formed, further expansion may follow from there. There aren't many drawbacks to the method. There won't be any coordinated international responses, and the UN probably would only go as far as to condemn your actions. Weighing these options against others, I'd probably suggest this as the best strategy to starting a crusade. So clearly, starting the 10th Crusade is not going to be easy. With the modern day political deadlock and the tightening grip of international law, resistance to deviation from the status quo in the international community is growing. Furthermore, with the emergence of more tolerant popes as of late, a 10th Crusade is becoming increasingly unlikely. But that is no reason to call it quits and surrender to the infidel. How could the divine will of all-powerful God fail in the face of these heathens? No, the difficulties of us should not, shall not, will not deter us from fulfilling the will of God. We shall strive even harder in the face of these seemingly insurmountable odds against us, for the faith of our Father who art in heaven shall guide us to victory. I hope that this video has been informative and helpful to you aspiring Crusaders. You should now have a better idea of where to start when launching your own crusade. But that will be all for this video. Remember to tune in next time for more tips, help, and other 10th Crusade content. But until then, happy crusading!